Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy D-Waugh back at it again. We're gonna do the first segment of D-Waugh Talk. You feel me? Usually it's the vibe of me and Wolf hopping on for the podcast and giving y'all financial gems. But today, Brother Wolf got handle some business, so you stuck with me for the day, word. But today, y'all know me, we're going to get straight into it. Today, we're going to break down the Federal Reserve, Fed funds rate, and how they're used to really shape the economy. There's a lot of news coming out with the Feds potentially cutting rates in September, and now that will affect the market, but no one really talks about exactly what the Federal Reserve is and what the Fed funds rate are and how that even affects us as consumers. You feel me? So today, we'll get straight into that. But y'all already know the vibe. We got to do the disclaimer first. The disclaimer, y'all, Think and Gen Wealth is strictly for educational purposes only. We are not licensed financial advisors. Please do your own research with everything that you say. Remember, y'all, this is meant to plant the seed for y'all, so that way you can go do your own research and figure out your own path to wealth, not to just take what we say and run with it. You feel me? ChatGPT is free. Use that, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And we also can't go out without our money mindset moment. And y'all know the money mindset moment, for all those who are new, is pretty much our way of giving out positive affirmation of financial literacy. You feel what I'm saying? We place in that positive affirmation so that way we can spread wealth throughout our way that we speak. So today, the positive affirmation is going to be, money is not just about what you make, it's about how the system moves around you. If you understand the system, you start being a pawn, you start playing like a king. Feel me? And that ties in heavily to what we say today. So I gotta say it one more time. Money is not just about what you make. It's about how the system moves around you. If you understand the system and you stop being a pawn and start playing like a king. Feel me? We ain't no pawns out here. We a big dog. What buddy say in that song, bro? She don't want a puppy. She want a big dog. Hey, that. All right, y'all. We gonna get straight into it, man. So, first thing first. Who pulls the strings of the U.S. economy, right? So, overall, I'm sure y'all have heard of the Federal Reserve before, but you probably don't know what the Federal Reserve is. So to make it simple, the Federal Reserve is essentially the central bank of the U.S., and their job is to make the economy stable. That's it. You feel what I'm saying? That's the main dual core of what they're here to do, is to make sure the economy is stable, and that they do that by making sure inflation is under control, and that the job market is performing well and unemployment is low. Those are the two only things they're focused on. A lot of people say they play into the stock market, they go into this, that, and the third. No, the Federal Reserve only cares about two things: low inflation, low unemployment. That's why they're here. You feel what I'm saying? They don't care about nothing else, and they're legally meant to be a separate entity from every other branch of the government. So they're meant to be their own thing, not dictated by the president, not dictated by any governors or legislations. No, they're their own entity. You see what I'm saying? Now, why does that matter to you? That matters to you because when the feds are controlling inflation and unemployment, they're using one tool called the Fed funds rate to do this. So we'll get into that later to explain exactly what that is. But what happens when they play with these Fed funds rates is it affects your loans, your savings rates, and your investments. It affects everything across the board because the higher it goes, the higher your savings rates may be. The lower it goes, the lower your savings rates may be. But more importantly, the feds, when they make decisions, it affects your investments heavily, especially if you're in the stock market, because we all know the stock market is all based off of psychology. So if the Fed does something that people don't agree with, you may see the stock market pull back. If the Feds do something that the people do agree with, you may see the stock market go up. You see what I'm saying? So the Feds, they're the central bank. They're only focused on two things: low unemployment and low inflation. But their decisions do cause a mass impact on the economy because it affects the overall economy as a whole. You see what I'm saying? So overall, you want to think of the Fed as a referee in the money game. You feel me? If there's mad flagrants going on, they throwing flags. And they're going to do that by lowering interest rates. You feel what I'm saying? Now, if there's too many flags in the field, if people start complaining, people start running around too much, all right, they might raise interest rates. All right, let's pick up these flags a little bit. Let's calm down the game a bit. That's the best way to think about it when you look into the Feds. Now, earlier, I'm running out of breath. My fault, y'all. It's been a wild day. But earlier, I had mentioned the Fed funds rates and exactly how they use that to control the economy as a whole, right? So, to keep it in simple terms, The Fed funds rate is like the gas and the brake pedal of the economy. And what it is essentially is it's the interest rate that banks borrow from each other through overnight loans. So I'll give you all an example. Let's say, oh, hold on, I got a burp. Hello. There we go. All right, back. Now let's say I got D-Waugh Bank, right? I'm the bank of D-Waugh. You feel me? Oh, excuse me. Yo, I had some ackee and kidney for breakfast. Oh my God. But let's say I'm the bank of D-Waugh, right? And I'm going to the bank of Wolf. You feel what I'm saying? So I go to the bank of Wolf and I'm like, yo, I need to get some more liquidity in my bank. People was asking for mad loans. Let's exchange some bread. You feel what I'm saying? The bank of Wolf says, all right, bet. We're going to exchange this bread overnight, literally through midnight. And we're going to set this rate for it. You feel me? Now, the rate that I pay back to the Wolf of Bank, the bank of Wolf, is going to be set by the Fed funds rate. You feel me? Because that's the rate, that interest rate, that's the rate that banks charge each other overnight. You feel what I'm saying? Now, the reason this affects the overall economy is because it sets the floor for borrowing costs for the economy. You feel what I'm saying? So if the bank of Wolf is charging me an interest rate that's based off the Fed funds rate, they're going to get the Fed funds rate. And let's say it's 2%. That's the Fed funds rate. I'm not saying it is that right now, but let's just say hypothetically it is. It's 2%. The bank of Wolf is going to be like, okay, that's what they're setting it at for the overnight loans. That means we need to add a certain percentage over that. So that way, when we do exchange money with other banks, we can still profit. So the Fed funds rate may be 2%, but the bank of Wolf is going to be like, okay, we're going to give the bank of D-Waugh 3%. So that way, when we do exchange a loan, we can still make 1% profit. You feel what I'm saying? Now, the banks do that with each other, but they also do that with consumers as well. So the rates that we see for like our interest rates, let's say auto loans, personal loans, all that, it's not the actual Fed funds rate. It's the rate that the banks are giving us based off of their Fed funds rate. So let's say right now I got a car loan. I got a 6% car loan. You feel me? The Fed funds rate right now, I believe, is 4.5%. So that means the bank that I got my car loan from said, all right, bet, we got 4.5% for this loan. Let's add on the extra 2% or 1.5%. So that way, when we give out this loan to D-Waugh for his car, we can make 1.5% profit back. That's really how it works. It sets the floor for the borrowing costs for the entire economy. So that's it. That's why when you see people, lower rates, do this, that, the third, people are screaming that because when the lower rates are set lower to the floor, that means money is cheaper to get. So people can get those 2% car loans. People can get those 12% credit card APRs. You feel what I'm saying? Because the Fed funds rate is at a lower floor. Now, the reason it's not like that all the time is because when you have the floor so low for interest rates, everybody spending money, everybody taking out loans, everybody getting their mama a house, their sister a house, their grandma a house, getting their second cousin a new car. You know what I'm saying? What's going to happen to inflation? Because like y'all know, when there's more money circulating in the economy, inflation is going to go up. And that's just based off supply and demand. There's more demand for certain things. There's less supply. All right, prices got to go up. That's just how inflations work. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why it's not always good to have really low interest rates, because we've seen a prime example back in 2021 when Jerome Powell had set the rates down to like 1%. You know what I'm saying? That was because of COVID. So he had to. But when that happened, what happened to inflation that we're still complaining about to this day? You feel me? Inflation skyrocketed to over 6%. Now, flip on the other side of the coin. Let's say you're in a spot where we're in now where the rates are high. Feel me? Car loans, auto loans, all that, it's high as hell. Feel what I'm saying? Now, people are feeling they want to be able to spend that money again. You feel what I'm saying? That's when you start to see consumer confidence start to lower because, people got paid more on their minimum payment for their credit card or their auto loan or for that personal loan they took out. So now people might feel the pressure more, but inflation is still not as rampant as it was before. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I mean when the Fed's funds rate is used as the brake pedal and the gas pedal of the economy. Feel me? If the Fed see, yo, we need more money in here. We need people spending bread so that way we can keep this economy rolling. I bet. Lower rates. Feel me? We're going to drop it down to 2%, 3%. That's the gas pedal. Now, let's say it's back to 2021. All right, inflation is wild. It's crazy out here. We got to break up the economy. We got to raise rates. Now the Fed fund rates becomes the brake pedal of the economy. See what I'm saying? And that's the real basic of it. But one thing that people have a common misunderstanding of with Fed funds rate is mortgage rates. This is where it gets a little dicey. Because the Fed funds rates does not directly affect mortgage rates when it's lowered. And I'll explain that further. So with the Fed funds rate, it affects things that's short to midterm. And it affects revolving credit and installment loans. So revolving credit is credit cards, lines of credit. That's revolving credit. It affects those interest rates. Installment loans is your auto loan, your personal loans, all that. But the one thing it doesn't affect for installment-wise is mortgages. And that's because mortgage rates are directly connected to the 10-year Treasury yield. So the Fed funds rates does affect it a little bit, but the most drastic change you'll see with mortgage rates is when there's a lower yield for the 10-year Treasury. You feel what I'm saying? So that's why you got to make sure you listen to the right people. Everyone will say, oh, when the Fed drop rates, oh, the economy's going to boom, housing is going to flourish, this, that, and the third. That's not entirely true because the Fed funds rate doesn't dictate exactly what mortgage rates look like. And people are complaining that no one's buying homes because rates are too high. But even if you lower the Fed funds rates, there's no guarantee that mortgage rates are going to drop. And that's just based off of psychology. You feel me? Someone could, let's say hypothetically the Feds cut rates. Someone could look at that, an investor, and be like, oh, wow, the Feds finally cut rates. Oh, that's good for the economy. I'm going to buy more of the 10-year Treasury because that may be a safe investment to them. So that could lower the yields. But another investor could look at it and be like, oh, shoot, they just cut rates and inflation not where they want to be yet. Nah, the U.S. don't look good. Let me take my money out. They take money out of the 10-year Treasury, which could increase the yield. So now if the yield goes up, mortgage rates go up. If the yield goes down, mortgage rates go down. And that's the thing people don't talk about. Everybody just looks for the quick, easy solution, but the Fed funds rate is not directly connected to that. So that's a little sneak peek for y'all. That's a little complicated. So if y'all got any questions, make sure you let me know in the comments below. But that's one thing you want to make sure you're being very careful of, who you listening to and what they're explaining when it comes to mortgage rates and Fed funds rates. Because there's a common misconception that they're inversely connected. And they are, but they do not affect each other as much as a 10-year Treasury affects mortgage rates. Where's bond? Now, with that being explained, the number one reason everyone's asking, yo, why the Fed's not cutting rates yet? Inflation ain't even that bad. This, that, and the third. Why they not doing it? The number one reason they do not want to do that is because of a thing that could potentially happen called stagflation. D-Waugh, what is stagflation? Stagflation is essentially when you have rising inflation, but your job growth is lowering. You feel what I'm saying? And it puts the Feds in a tough position because remember, the Fed funds rates are used to control inflation and to improve the job market. But if you have inflation rising and the job market lowering, if you cut rates, inflation's going to go even higher. The job market might improve, but inflation's going to get worse. Now, if you don't cut rates, inflation may go down, but the job market's going to go down as well. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's one of the most hardest positions for any Federal Reserve, either the governor or it's the chair, Jerome Powell. It's very difficult to be in that position because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And that's exactly why I personally believe the Feds have not cut rates yet, is because we're seeing the early stages of stagflation. And we see them from our most recent jobs report back in, from the one came out this past week that was lower than estimated. But the one that came out in the beginning of August, that was bad, bro. that revision was really bad. Like our job market looked like we was about to die, bro. And that was bad because what was going on with inflation at the same time? It was still ticking up. Not by a lot, but it was still ticking up. So when you start seeing that, that's an early stages of, whoa, okay, this could be, you see what I'm saying? So that's why I believe the Feds have taken that wait and see approach, because you have to be careful with stagflation. If you do something too drastic, it could set something spiraling, especially we allegedly don't know if tariffs have caused a significant impact with inflation yet. Allegedly. I don't know. I'm not a tariff guy. I don't know nothing. But economists are saying the impact hasn't happened yet. You feel what I'm saying? So I understand why the Feds is waiting on that. Now, I say that to say the Feds are likely, I think 87% likely to cut rates at the next FOMC meeting. Now, for y'all who don't know what FOMC is, that's the Federal Open Meeting Committee, something like that. Essentially, it's the meeting where the Feds decide if they're going to cut rates or not, and they announce it to the public. You see what I'm saying? Now, that meeting is coming up on September 16th through September 17th. And that is going to be a big, big, big time, y'all. Because when this happens, it's going to cause a crazy pullback in the stock market or a crazy run-up, further bull run in the stock market. Feel me? Because a lot of people are expecting them to cut rates. And naturally, the stock market likes when rates are cut because more money goes into the market. So that means more gains, more earnings, more money for people in the market who's investing. But if the Feds do not cut rates and go against the grain for what people are expecting, that's what will cause I'm expecting at least a correction, like a 5% pullback, if that would be the case, because it's so heavily already baked in that they are going to cut rates. So that would be a big surprise for everybody in the market. So I say that to say, for those who want to prepare for that, who want to know what to do when Feds do cut rates or how to prepare for this next FOMC meeting, I'm going to give y'all the game plan. Boom, right here. Right now, what I would do is I would dollar cost average into companies. So we had a little nice pullback, this past in August, you know what I'm saying? Nice little pullback this past week. I would dollar cost average a little bit to strong companies, the Nvidias, the Amazons. I'm personally dollar cost averaging into a company called NU and Grab, but dollar cost average light into strong companies, but have a nice little bag ready to go. You see what I'm saying? Now, when the Feds do decide what they're going to do, if rates stay the same, hey, load the boat, my boy. Load the boat, because it's going to drop, you feel me? And load the boat on strong companies like Nvidia. I always say Nvidia because, they're the best company in the world right now. But Nvidia, if you want to hedge yourself, Realty Income is a good one. But I would personally load the boat on companies that are strong and are going to be around here for the next 5 years and are the number one in their sector right now, especially if they keep rates where they are right now. Now, if rates were to fall, you're going to see the stock market rally. But that also gives you the opportunity to explore different things with your credit. So let's say you have a personal loan or auto loan that you're sick and tired of paying 30% on. Maybe you could look into refinancing with the local credit union near you because the rates had just dropped. Feel what I'm saying? Or let's say you got a credit card, you got a high balance on, and you're trying to figure out the best way to pay that down. With rates dropping, maybe you could find a balance transfer credit card to transfer that balance. So now you could pay off that balance at a lower rate than what you're paying now to save you some money. So regardless of what happens, y'all, there's a way to make money. There's a way to be smart with your finances. But it's very important to know what's going on, at least the basics of it, so that way you don't get led astray when opportunities do come. Because I bet you, if they do not cut rates, allegedly, I don't know what's going to happen. If they do not cut rates, people are going to say, don't buy in the stock market. Oh, it's going to blow. Oh, it's 2008. Oh, God. Oh, it's crazy. Oh, Lord of mercy. And what happens every time when that happens, y'all? The stock market runs up. We've seen it in April. We didn't even hit a correction. We hit like a 4% pullback. We didn't even hit the full 5% correction. But, hey, that market rallied quick, and then we hit new all-time highs. So I say that to say, know what's going on, know the basics, don't get led astray, y'all. Understand stagflation, which is high inflation and high unemployment with low to no growth, and know what's going on so that way you can prepare yourself. You feel what I'm saying? 'Cause at the end of the day, opportunities are going to be there, but what are you going to do to take advantage of it? Feel me? So, quick breakdown of everything. If you want to prepare for stagflation, cut unnecessary spending. We always preach that. Focus on essentials and cash flow. Feel me? And look at inflation-resistant assets. You know what I'm saying? Look at strong companies to invest into in the stock market. Look at different REITs, if you like REITs. I love real estate income. That's a good hedge against the market. You know what I'm saying? But more importantly, make sure you're taking advantages when you see opportunities that come up. Now, overall, y'all, Federal Reserve may seem like, the big bad wolf in the background. You don't know what they're doing. But just remember, they're here for two things and two things only. To control inflation and to control unemployment. That's the only thing they're here for, y'all. Now, if y'all got any questions, if y'all got any stocks that you think would be really good to invest into if the feds were to not cut rates, or if they were, the strong companies you think you would like people to know, let us know in the comments, man. If y'all want to learn more about how to find these exact plays and follow our path to success when it comes to investing and trading, make sure you tap into our Discord for free. We drop all of our plays. Y'all have the ability to ask us any questions you like. So y'all let us know, man. It's D-Waugh. I'm out of here.